If you're a regular listener of this podcast, then you know that I really care about the arts and how teachers use the arts to engage in positive ways with their students. And if you're looking for inspiring stories of how arts educators are transforming lives, I am here to tell you that I have found your next podcast, Arts Educators Save the World. Winner of the 2025 Earworthy Award for Best Education Podcast, Arts Educators Save the World features conversations between successful artists and their mentors about the impact that arts education has had on both their lives. And they have had some incredible guests. Check out their back catalog with superstars like Josh Radnor, Bradley Whitford, SNL's Cecily Strong, writer of Frozen, Avenue Q, and Book of Mormon, Bobby Lopez, Jonathan Groff, and the one and only Lin-Manuel Miranda. And if I were to say which arts educator has inspired me the most, it would have to be my husband, Brad Wells, founder of the Grammy Award-winning new music vocal band Room Full of Teeth and professor emeritus from Williams College. He has inspired so many with his kindness and vision and creative genius. And when he hears this, he is going to kill me. Arts Educators Save the World. Tune in. Oh boy, this is not just a bonus episode. It is a holiday family episode where I get to talk to my daughter, May, who is training this year to become a teacher and who is, just in general, a very interesting human being. But before we get into it, there's something else that's special about this episode. It marks the beginning of the holiday season for Teaching Through Emotions, which means we're thinking about gifts. Specifically, starting today, November 20th, you can buy a gift subscription to TTE for half price. That's right, half price. You can gift it to anyone, a teacher, a new parent, a student teacher, a parent or sibling. You. What a lovely thing to give yourself. Go to teachingthroughemotions.com/subscribe. There you can order your gift subscription for $5 a month or $50 a year. We are so grateful that you listen and find the podcast helpful enough to gift it to others. What a deal. And your teacher gift recipient can enjoy the multiple benefits of a paid subscription to TTE, exclusive bonus episodes like this one, my entire archive of blog posts, over 200 of them, and you can get a discount on my book, The Feeling of Teaching, which is another great gift, BT dubs. Buying a gift subscription is a gift to Teaching Through Emotions as well, as it keeps us going as we send out helpful content every week that makes teaching and living healthier, more sustainable, and therefore more enjoyable. Please do consider supporting one or more teachers you love and us all at the same time. Go to teachingthroughemotions.com/subscribe and follow the prompts. $5 a month or $50 a year. The link will be in the show notes, so you can just click on it. Easy peasy. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And happy holidays.
When this started, I confess I did not understand. I guess maybe that's how it all turned out to be. Well, such a mess.
If you're new here, welcome. I'm Betsy Burris, a teacher educator and psycho coach. Every week, I podcast or write on Substack about using your emotions to feel better and teach better. Sometimes you'll hear stories of educators as told to me or sent into the Teaching Through Emotions hotline, all of them discussed with me and my co-host, Joe Johnson. And sometimes you'll hear an interview with someone who offers an interesting perspective on teaching and learning. We unpack it all here on the feed and on Substack. I'm so glad you're here. And now, without further ado, May!
Hi.
So May, how do you describe yourself, at least to yourself? How would you describe yourself to me and others?
I think I would describe myself as a writer. That's how I feel like I move through the world. I think self-definition, I've realized, is partly like, how do you define yourself so you're legible to other people? And I think to myself, I feel like just like an amorphous blob most of the time. Just like pure experience, you know? But when I have to kind of contextualize myself, it's like, oh, well, that way of experiencing and way of processing experience, I think, is a writer.
What writing do you do, have you done, do you aspire to do?
I recently told someone that I think everything I write is poetry, which I really chalk up to like how I learned to write, which was with you as a kid. It was just this kind of process of over years working with you on this need I had to express something. and just figuring out how to wrangle this thing so that it matched my inner life. And I wrote a lot for school. I've written a novel and a half and a play and poetry, I guess, conventionally speaking. But the feeling is the same, no matter if it's like an academic paper or even a stupid exercise these days, which makes me think there's something essential about it, no matter what it looks like.
Wow. I just love that. It's so true. Of course, I recognize, because for me too, writing is a very muscular exercise in making words match my insides. I've never heard you say that before, and I can completely recognize it. And it warms me to think that that is true for you. It really is an existential exercise. What is it to be me right now? What is it to be alive right now? And to use words to capture that. Wow. So you identify as a writer, yet you are training to be a teacher. What made you decide to become a teacher?
I have been thinking a lot about this week, and I think it's directly related to my writing practice and need to write. I'm in this class called Teaching of Reading for my master's program. And yesterday we were reading a story called Everyday Use by Alice Walker. It's this beautiful encapsulation of what I read as how to live attached to your soul and how, honestly, the modern world rips people from their own souls. And we were reading in class and I was just overwhelmed. I just thought it was incredible. And analyzing it, in all of these ways that were also presumably like, here's how we would teach it. Here's how we would show it to students. And everyone, at least to me, was missing the point. Like, no one seemed to be understanding the soul of this text. The fact that it was talking about this really, really intense human issue that comes all the way down to like this kind of irreducible phenomenon, which is the fact that we all have souls. So what I've kind of realized I've been doing my whole life, or ever since I learned how to write and read, is trying to touch my soul. To write and express what it is to be alive right now is to be trying to touch your soul, responding to that demand. And I think our schools don't ask us to do it. And I actually think they ask us to not do it. But the only world that I can bear to live in is one where, like, at least somewhere, someone is concerned with the souls of children. With the souls of the young people of the world. And there's all sorts of ways to touch your soul. My way of choice is the English language. I think it's like an incredible mechanism. So that's why English teaching, but that's why teaching, I think. Yeah, there needs to be more soul in the world.
It makes such good sense and so beautifully said. So you've made a beautiful connection between what drives your writing and what drives your move into teaching. And that is basically a philosophy of life that is very, very profound, but also it feels like it's really live for you. So how are you liking your student teaching experience so far?
I would say I don't really love my classes, except that I really love my classmates. And it's fun to just kind of like be in school again. And there are some things that are helpful. Like I'm in a methods class where we're learning about curriculum design and different ways of doing it. And we have a teacher who has just clearly so much experience and is very thoughtful. What's really helpful about that is just kind of techniques and like ways of thinking about moves you can do. So that's really genuinely helpful.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I take it one class at a time, really.
A lot of teachers feel that way about teacher education courses, which is very, very sad. As someone who taught teacher education courses, I'm very sad to hear that, and it continues apace. Anyway, but student teaching is different.
Yeah, and I have kind of questions in the back of my head about that. Yesterday, my classmates and I were commiserating in our teaching of writing class, or afterwards, we were like, yeah, I was totally bullshitting that one thing. Or like, I was yes. How do people try to preserve their souls against the bullshitting? I need to preserve my soul. So like, I'm going to hide it. It is not going to be visible here because I know you're going to look right past it. It's like a ghost to you in this context, in this room, whatever. We do not show up that way.
Yeah. It makes me think I'm not going to engage my soul because it won't be seen.
Right.
Right. Which is so interesting when we think about how important it is to feel seen. That's a developmental human necessity. And so, yes, I think it's really smart of you to be thinking, not just how do we engage our souls, why aren't people doing that, but how are they protecting and hiding to keep themselves safe and sane?
Totally, exactly. And there's a real benefit to having some privacy with your soul. As a young person, your teacher shouldn't be seeing all of you all the time. You shouldn't be feeling need to be showing yourself to your teacher all the time. That's maybe to tie that into my student teaching experience. These kids, they are actually not self-aware yet. They're not aware that they have souls, which is kind of awesome because They are living according to them, just kind of indiscriminately, which means that often my cooperating teacher is pissed at them because she gives lessons that they don't care about because they're in touch with their souls. And so they're rowdy and they're doing whatever and they're talking with their friends about something really interesting. And, or often she gives them assignments that are just too hard for them, either too hard or too easy. It's funny. And I'm seeing the challenge, especially with middle school. Like they're so volatile and like complex that it's actually, I think it is hard to kind of pinpoint what they need and where it is. So all to say, I think student teaching I do love it. I look forward to it every day. I really appreciate my cooperating teacher in a lot of ways. And I can see how hard her job is. That being said, I feel really good about my role. Often I go in and I'm with those kids and they are learning and I'm teaching them. Today, these sixth graders who are like babies, they drop their stuff all the time. They're dropping stuff. That's what they're doing. They're reading this novel in verse and they're trying to look at the main character's sense of himself and the world. So they're always answering a question towards this better understanding of this character's sense of himself and the world. Which, first of all, the kids are like, what's a sense of self? What's a sense of the world? They're still, by the way, asking that question. They have been studying this book for a month, but they're done with the book. And now they're moving into poetry analysis. They have a bunch of poems, different forms of poems that the teacher has identified for them in the book. And they're not structures I've heard of before. Most of them. One's like an ode, but then there's an occasional poem and a list poem and a definition poem and a found materials poem, whatever. So there are these different forms. And then so the idea is to come up with a couple poems whose forms belong to one of the forms on the list that the teacher made for them. Then they have to discuss how the form of that poem a little better illuminates the meaning of the book in terms of Josh's sense of himself in the world.
Oh my God. I can see your head, the kids' eyes spinning in their freaking heads. They're like, I lost you back at form. Conform to a form. So how'd they do?
They do a terrible job. And they don't even know how to ask the questions that will get them to the answer
exactly.
They don't even know how to do that. So I was going around just kind of trying to put out fires everywhere. And what was awesome was I'm curious because they have homework and they have to be filling out this worksheet. I would start many of them on okay, this poem, you chose this poem. What type of poem is this? Okay, it's a definition poem. I'm just starting to ask, so how does the form of this poem impact the meaning? And so then of course they start telling you about the content of the poem. They're like, this is what happens in the poem. And I'm like, okay, so you're doing a great job analyzing content. Together, we're going to think about, you haven't done this much, even though they have. And this is so weird. This whole unit has been about form and content. How those work together. But it's not been well taught. And I don't know. And this is one of the things, this is a curriculum that's been handed down. It's called Wit and Wisdom. It's a corporate fucking curriculum or something. So the teacher's reading from a book.
Scripted.
Sometimes
scripted curriculum.
It's scripted. Exactly.
Oh my God. Wow.
So it's a mess. It's an absolute mess. And me thinking, I'm like, oh my gosh, this is so interesting. At some point, I would want to be talking with students about the relationship between form and content.
Yes.
Absolutely. That is profound and crucial. Not sixth graders, not in the fall. Anyway, so I am thinking this is actually really interesting, but I don't even know, is there a way to honor how interesting this concept and important this concept is, with these kids who I don't even know what neurons are firing. So basically, and it was kind of this awesome thing where for example, one thing I ended up doing with several different kids was there are a lot of this kind of definition poem in this story. And the form is the same every time. The title of the poem is the word that's supposed to be defined. The first stanza is the literal definition. And then the next three stanzas are examples, kind of in context, but they have a particular relationship to each other. The first one's kind of general, and then the second two kind of connect more and more intensely to the narrative that's unfolding and actually serve to illuminate something in the story. It's cool.
Yeah. It sounds pretty sophisticated.
It is sophisticated. And the thing is, I got them there. We got there together. I think with the right kind of guidance, and they did it themselves. It was just me having to kind of ask the questions that they need to be asking. They can answer them. So it was a really interesting learning process for me to be okay, that's right. Analysis is knowing what questions to ask. And then bringing the curiosity to yourself in terms of coming up with the answer. It's almost it's the teacher kind of providing the structure so that the student can eventually learn how to provide the structure for themselves and see that they can fill it. It comes out. We would get to this point in analysis where it'd be okay, these last two stanzas, what are they? Okay, they're examples. Is there a relationship between these examples? What's going on? Are they getting more something? And the kids are like, yeah, they're getting more intense. They're getting more this. I was like,
Wow.
write it down. Like that instruction. You just did structural analysis of a poem. I don't know if that'll stick, but it was awesome. It was awesome. But I don't know. I don't think the other teacher was doing that. I think she was like, just write a poem and get some evidence down. Like it's so messy. The piss of it is not being honored necessarily. I don't know.
I just have to say, when you were describing the process you step the students through, I can help justify that approach from the psychoanalytic theoretical standpoint. That is, you understand intuitively that for someone to change into an analyst of a poem, they first need the questions to be external. In other words, they need a guide, they need a model, they need someone to say, these are the questions you can ask. And then in time and with support and reinforcement, eventually those questions get internalized. This is self-optic. This is how, people's psyches, people's senses of self develop. Eventually, I've heard those questions so much that I've internalized the questions, and I've experienced answering the questions so much that I've internalized how to answer them, which then to me can add up to a sense of curiosity from all sides so that you can start generating your own questions, right? You can be creative yourself. I mean, it's thrilling to hear that you intuited that, and it's discouraging to hear, but actually not that surprising, although just so disappointing. I've been in the field of education for over 40 years. That it's still this kind of superficial, unthought through, just impose, just get them to do it. We know what we're talking about. We just have to get them to do what we want them to do and then move on, as opposed to really think about how to help kids become people who think this way all on their own, because they're capable of it.
Yeah, totally. And it was interesting to kind of watch myself do it, because I don't know what the fucking definition poem is. I was doing this on the fly. As you were saying, I was kind of doing it with them, which was a cool exercise. And again, I think the teacher is the best student in the room. I am such a good student and such a good student of English that I know how to do this stuff. And again, it comes all the way down to the soul and all the way back up. You're so right. Actually, the most recent novel I was working on, you just made me think of a line in there. In order to educate a full person, and if we're talking about the soul, there needs to be this movement in and out, in and out. In the same way that eating, in order to continue this form in a way that promotes it through time, you have to be taking things in from the outside world and metabolizing them in the way that makes sense to you.
Yeah.
It's a give and take. It's so organismic, actually. It's incredibly organismic.
Yes.
And this is another thing I was thinking about. I don't trust that there are enough human beings out there who have committed to being human in that way. Who decided to be it's tough, but I have to live according to my soul. And all the bullshit that comes with being a socialized being that offends my soul. Okay, I'll go through the motions and whatever, but did I tell you I was saying that school teaches you to sin?
Yes, I think you've mentioned that.
Well, if you think about sin, okay, in the Christian context, it's God's law is divine, and to sin is to go against God's command. I think in a just kind of basic way, it's your being knows what's good for it. We all have an inbuilt sense of what's right. You can go against it and you sin against yourself. And some people, I would say, live in sin. I imagine that some people don't even know what feels right to them.
Yeah.
I'm so sad for them. But I don't think it's an accident. And I think that school teaches us to sin. I think school is do not do what's right for you. Because probably what's right for you is to not be here right now. It's kind of showing people too that if you're going to be a feasible member of society, you have to live in sin. It is, whether or not you like it, a training ground for society. So I think a lot of people either hide themselves and in order to preserve their real life and then present this kind of fake self to this fake world, or they just shut down that real life and they're I don't care, whatever.
Yeah. They don't even know about it.
They fall asleep to it because it's too painful to be awake to it. I know that it's terrifying. I feel like I faced that decision recently in my life.
Yes.
Am I going to live according to my soul? Or am I going to consent? It's hard.
Wow.
Probably why I needed to do teaching. It felt like I couldn't do anything else.
Are you afraid that you're going to lose your soul as a teacher?
Not at all. I think maybe if I just write and hang out with kids forever, maybe I'll be okay. Adults scare me. I don't really know what's going on with most of them. Sometimes I know there's a little bit in there when they understand that being around me makes them feel good and they're kind of drawn to me. I think when people are drawn to me, I'm okay.
We're speaking to each other at this level.
Right. At some level, you're
Mm-hmm.
speaking to me from this place. Yeah. Or you're hearing me from this place. But with kids, I trust them so much. At least I know that if they're starting to learn how to turn themselves off to it, they're still on the lookout for people who do
Yeah.
want to talk to them there. So again, in a kind of organismic way, it gives me hope. Like at least
Yes.
kids are, at least I can talk to them.
I love that. Hey, listeners, I just wanted to remind you, Teaching Through Emotions is an independent, self-funded podcast. I love sharing educator stories with you here and on Substack, but I need your help to keep it going. If you become a Substack supporter, I have a lot of goodies and behind-the-scenes snippets for you. You'll get to hear unedited, unfiltered episodes and mini-episodes, rants really, about current educational issues. You'll have access to nearly 200 actionable and entertaining blog posts. You can get a discount on my book, The Feeling of Teaching, or even get it for free. At the highest level, you get a free hour-long consultation with me to work through and feel good about the worst day of your teaching life. Go to teachingthroughemotions.com and become a paid subscriber to get access to all this and support the show. You're an angel. You have mentioned the divine as being in the God realm, in the realm of God and religion, but I happen to know that you don't think that the divine is just God's. God does not have a monopoly on the divine. So can you talk to me, about the divine, what it means to you, and how you think about it specifically in your teaching?
God is just everything to me. Like the material universe is God incarnate. It is what it is. It's happening. It's doing its thing. The divine is the provision, the continual opportunity built into God itself. And it's energetic and it's in line with the change that is inherent in the universe. We experience change. Like no moment is the same for us. We are in constant flux. And to me, that means like the edge of every moment, the possibility of going from one moment to the next is the divine. But it has a demand. I think it's related to the feeling of rightness that we all carry. It's always, I think, seeking rightness. It's always asking us to honor what's right in ourselves. I was just talking with a friend about a way that some people define God in like medieval theology, a certain early Christian theology, which to me was deeply related to the divine. And like a kind of arising, it actually made me think of the third. When matter interacts with itself, according to its sense of right, what comes is God.
So is the divine something we channel, like a source of energy or a force of love or a force of some sort? Or is it something that we somehow manifest in our moment-to-moment actions, which would be more in line with the idea of a third, which for our listeners, maybe you can define what the third is and what you mean.
What I gather is, psychodynamically speaking, there's this thing that happens when two people, is it?
Two or more, but the third is when two
come together in a way that kind of honors the true full contribution of each, which allows this third thing to arise between them that could not have existed without both of those people, but also it's not reducible to either of those people. It's actually like a separate thing in the world.
An emergent experience. It's not a thing, obviously, because it's co-created. It's an understanding or it's a feeling, or so it's not a thing per se, kind of like the divine isn't a thing. But by emergence, it means there's an experience that two people, if two people are having it, then it's a third. If 80 people are having it, then it's an 81st, right? The nth is one more than however many people are working together in this way to co-create understanding and a genuine feeling together. But it is a co-created experience. I've often thought of the divine as being something that I channel. Like there are forces at work around me. I can't see them and I don't always feel them. But if I tune in, if I take a walk in a beautiful place or really engage with someone carefully and I listen carefully, or I'm loving very deeply, then I'm channeling the divine, right? But I think what you're saying is not what I love. I love what you're saying about it's actually something that gets manifested in our actions and in every step that we take. It's an opportunity. So there's potential. It's not that the divine is just waiting there for us to tap into. It's that we are active and responsible in co-creating the manifestation of God, not a religious God, but God as the world, as the universe, as nature, as everything that has been created as the magic that we all experience because we're alive.
One thing that, as you were talking, I was thinking is conditional versus unconditional. I feel like the way you were describing the divine is under certain conditions, I can channel the divine as opposed to
Yes.
exactly. And the other thought that was coming, which is I don't want to sound like a preachy Christian because I'm absolutely not. But I think my feeling about the divine is exactly that. Like God always loves you, no matter what you're doing. You can be sitting left and right. If you're still on the edge of this moment, on the edge of the next moment, the opportunity is still there. The love is still there. Everything that is, in my mind, is love. So yeah, totally.
And there are so many forces at work to keep us from those, which is what you're talking about, this disconnect. And the disconnects that can get so profound that we basically just sleepwalk through our lives.
Yeah, exactly. And that is the scariest crisis, I feel like, of our world. I don't know of anything scarier than that.
Maybe hating is scarier. Sleepwalking is one thing, but actively hating and hurting.
Yes, that's true. I can't even imagine it, but I do kind of wonder about how those people feel God in their lives. I wonder if those people actually do feel God, but they feel potentially a kind of vast distance. There's something so alive about being hateful. You know, like as you say, hate is not the opposite of love, actually.
Yeah.
That's why I say indifference, sleepwalking, that's the opposite. You're fucked. If you're hateful, you're still knocking on the door. You know, no, you're lost. But there's a chance that someone will come in and be like, fuck you. It's almost like you're calling out to God. You're calling out and calling out and calling out. And it might be like fucked up to say that, I don't know.
Well, except let me say, you're calling out to God, which means you're calling out to other living beings to come into your orbit and actually give you what you need.
Yes.
And see what you need and feel the desire to connect with you at that level. I call it the emotional bedrock. But that's what we're calling out for. Will you love me? Will you please do it? Can you do it? I mean, May, it's such an interesting formulation, such an interesting way of thinking about it and how very important it is for us to remember that we all need the same stuff. We all do have souls. We all do need the divine. We all have access to the divine and are responding to it and asking for it and relating to it and engaging with it in different ways, except for those who are, as you say, indifferent. The opposite of love is indifference. It makes so much sense if you think about it. The opposite of love is not hate. Love and hate are fueled by the same engine, the engine of passion, the engine of need, the engine of desire, the engine of being human. So hatred is actually not, but encountering hate is not the end of life, right? It means that someone's still alive. There's someone living in there.
Yeah.
But they need something that they're desperate for and no one's giving it to them.
Exactly.
Or the way they're getting the need met, because you can collectively hate. That makes you feel really good because you belong, but that's not touching the soul. It's not the divine.
Yeah. And I also want to say, why people always wonder about the afterlife and heaven or whatever. Like, we live in heaven. It's here. Are you kidding me? This is incredible. But we make a real mess of it. And I'm thinking about what would it look like if everyone was in touch with their souls. I was walking through New York the other day and just took a picture of this big graffiti thing that said, we have lots of humans, but not enough souls or something. People on the streets are graffitiing it, People in the park are talking about it. If every person was a soul, what would that world look like? As you're saying, hate would not be eliminated, but the world would be readable as a text. Like, the world is a work of art. And that's part of, I think, why literature comes so naturally to me, because to me, there's no real difference. Writing literature is just kind of honoring the artful nature of the world itself and the artful potential, the continual potential of the world to be ever more in line with its incredible beauty. But even within a work of art, there is tension and contrast, and there can't just be pure good feeling. So I think you have to have hard emotions to understand more things and to make the world take different shapes. So I think too, this kind of love is good and hate is bad, or good feeling is good and bad feeling is bad. That doesn't make any sense.
Yes.
It all is. And bad feeling, damn, if it's strong, look at it. Look into that part of the text. What's going on there, And again, as someone who really loves to analyze text, to me, it's obvious. And maybe as the kid of a psychotherapist, it's obvious that it's all fascinating and opportunity for what life is all about. But you can't shy away from it. It's ridiculous.
Unfortunately, you can. But just probing that for people who are choosing to shy away from their scariest emotions. Of course, we understand why many do. There's trauma. We all construct ourselves. We contort ourselves in ways that protect our tender souls and protect us from bad feelings too. I mean, there's all kinds of things we're trying to protect ourselves from. And I think the luckiest of us, maybe you, maybe me, can actually stay open to these feelings because we're safe enough, right? We're in safe places with safe people. So we know we can fall back into arms that will hold us and love us, but not everyone has that. Still, it brings me back to schools as holding environments, as places where maybe could these be places where even kids who don't have arms to fall back into that they can trust completely, where they can find those kinds of cushions or holding environments or safe places or arms with their teachers who are there because they know this is a place where souls get to thrive. Because the kind of learning we want students to be doing is soul-based learning. It's organismic learning. It's not just information that we pack into our brains and then forget. It's about being people in a world and seeking ways to take advantage of the divine with every step we take. I just think that's a fascinating way to think about education. What would it mean for the curriculum? What would we expect from teachers? What are the criteria? What does a job description sound like? And what are the qualifications for that particular job? And students don't have to have qualifications. Every student is welcome. We take you all in and we figure out ways to hold you. I mean, that's a great definition of education for me personally.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I love it. As you were talking, one thing I was thinking was the fear of not being understood, especially thinking about trauma and all that, and also just in an existential way. Because I believe actually that all things are possible, like dealing with trauma, looking your trauma in the face is possible with the support of people who understand you, the support of people who are there with you. And if you are completely yourself, if you go all the way down with yourself, and you realize that there's any kind of part of yourself that is inaccessible to other people, you don't want to go there.
Yeah.
We all desire connection and being seen, like fundamentally. All the more reason why education being this place where your soul is held here, teaching people that that is possible. Like not only that their souls can be nurtured in like a very real way, but that in this world, that is possible.
Yes.
Is so important. And I was like recently thinking about just consciousness. I think consciousness is the spirit. It's not generated by your brain. I can feel the difference between my brain's thoughts and my consciousness of the world. And there's a totalness to my consciousness of the world. And there's a kind of again, like you just kind of move it around. I bring it to here. Oh, all of a sudden, all these things start happening. Oh, I bring it over here. I bring it to a fucking definition poem. All of a sudden, all these things, it's incredibly emergent.
Yes.
I don't like people that much. And I've grown up relatively, I think, isolated from like human connection. And I have found a lot of deep relationship in non-human things. Words being one of them. So to me, I am kind of feeling like I'm constantly making meaning in partnership with what's around me. And often I find humans to be one of the harder things to make meaning with, even though I've been realizing over the past few years that I really, really do need them, that I really do need to feel understood by human beings. It's very hard to feel that way.
Yeah. Human beings are disappointing.
Yeah. But all to say though, I was envisioning the classroom in your definition of an educational space. I was thinking about how a classroom is all of these consciousnesses coming together. And if it's true that like there's something about the spirit or the soul that is part of your consciousness, as it's kind of, what would it mean psychodynamically speaking? Like what does it mean then about the emotions of the classroom and the kind of potential for like an emergent consciousness, the kind of a third or a whatever next level of experience altogether, where everyone is partaking in like this thing that can happen, materially speaking, the same thing that happens, and we talk about emergent systems, that is God at work, I think, and we can do it too at a human level.
Yes.
That's my other thing. Part of the world view is, okay, we're all in these forms, where the world materialized through these particular human forms. How do we help ourselves make sense of what that means?
Yeah.
Because it's intense, but it's beautiful. And it's whatever it is. Again, it is what it is. But we owe it to each other and to the human world to honor it.
I think there are classrooms and teachers who get that spirit, the divine moving in their classrooms. They know when it's happening. Students know when it's happening. We know when we're in a space where people to use a whole different metaphor, where we're basically at the edge of chaos, where the communicating is happening, where the energy is a flowing among everyone in the group. Everyone's there. It's all boom, boom, boom. It's like if it were a net, an electric net, it would be neon, you know? We all know when we're popping. And I mean, it gives me chills just thinking about it. I know teachers get to that state. They co-create that state with their students probably a lot. Maybe some teachers do it a lot. I know that there are plenty of teachers who don't ever get there. And the difference between the kind of static, inert, traditional, like the kind of experience that so many people can point to as being the reason why they hate school, right? Or hated school. Those experiences of deadness are common. They're just too common. Those experiences of aliveness, of electricity are, I fear, rare, but they happen. And I think that's what you're talking about. If we could make school a place where that happens for all the time, then what human being would not want to be there?
Yeah.
Because that's the divine. I'm alive right now. I feel alive. And not just I'm enjoying doing what I love doing. No, I'm enjoying co-creating something new. I'm enjoying being creative. I'm enjoying connecting with other people. I'm enjoying connecting with content that I don't know. I'm enjoying this. There's joy here. I just don't see, I mean, aside from the fact that teachers, aside from this very major fact that teachers are actually pressed by so many fucking forces that are actually not divine. You know, they're just mandates from policymakers who don't know what the hell they're talking about or don't care or have other agenda items in mind, like cost or whatever, fears, getting reelected, whatever. Schools are so handicapped by that kind of shit, but the purest form of it is the form that I know you're going to be enacting and co-creating with your students. You already are. You're already doing it. And that's a good thing. I think the more we do that, the more it'll ripple, 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 ripple. And the expectations, the more students experience this even just once, the better, it seems to me. Everyone should be feeling that this is the potential. This is how it could feel. I could feel alive in this classroom. Holy shit, who knew? What more do you have to say for yourself, young woman?
Well, I was thinking about these 8th graders in this middle school that have been working on poetry. And they've been learning a lot of different forms of poems. Again, lots of formal stuff, but more like traditional forms. And then they try their hand at writing them. And at the end of this little unit, they all had to have like 7 different poems written in each of these different forms. And then they had to revise at least one of those poems into like a poem that was good enough to submit, I guess, for a grade, or they call it publish. So of course, I'm doing a ton of work with these kids as they write these poems and just like absolutely loving the process. Once again, I'm just like, yeah, you guys got it going on. And with a little bit of like someone who like understands what the point of this is, you get it even more.
Yeah.
It was just awesome. Yeah. Anyway, I've been feeling like I am pure theory at this point, and now I'm putting into practice and it all checks out.
Nice. Very satisfying experience.
Totally. At the end of last week, the kids were ramping up to like, they were getting their final conferences in to like submit their poetry. And so the teacher, you know, is like, what does everyone need to finally submit their poems? And everyone's raising their hand, May. So awesome. Which again, I'm also like, this is so great. I'm just like, yeah, you guys, your souls are alive, bro. Anyway, but this one kid who I conferenced with maybe 3 times, I took a while to get to him in class. Like he always seemed a little bit checked out. He was kind of doing well enough. I feel like I'm beginning to feel a lot of the kids because I go around a lot and help them one-on-one or talk with them one-on-one about the work and stuff. So I wasn't quite sure about his deal. But then we started working on his poem. He was writing a sonnet about the end of summer. And we were walking through it and talking about it. And he was getting excited. And so this like final day, he was like, okay, like, I think I'm close. Like I'm here, whatever. He was like, I worked on this so much yesterday for homework. I actually left my homework folder at school accidentally. And I walked all the way across Manhattan from my house to get the folder so that I could bring the poem home and work on it.
Oh,
and I was like, oh my God, what?
Yeah.
And it was so awesome too, because I was like, this kid would not, like, he's a chiller. I don't think he kind of, I think he's one of those probably like does, enough to like seem like he's doing whatever. But he was working it. That is awesome. The classroom obviously is the world. It's harder to translate the image of the classroom into the rest of your life. But I feel like if you're figuring out how to write according to yourself and read according to the way that you see, like that also is just so exciting to me. Like it just felt like, okay, these kids are starting to project themselves. Like these poems are beautiful.
Yeah.
And they're projections, they're actual art. that just like gives me faith. It just gives me more and more faith. So that's why I'm saying, like, I feel like obviously the classroom is so special and like should be honored, but I'm also interested in like the other stuff that comes out, I guess.
I really love the reminder that it's one thing to fantasize or theorize a school that would focus on the development of human beings as precious entities, as precious beings. And it's another thing to send those people out into the world, which is actually not that kind of holding environment. You can create a really great, healthy holding environment in a school where everyone is encouraged to change and grow healthily, and then send them out into a world that is not that kind of holding environment. And that is basically deeply disappointing.
Yeah.
Differentially so depending on the area you're living in or the day or the time.
Right.
But you're also making me think that that's why schools as the world are also important in terms of just overall relationships and the relationship, that what I call emotion work, the relationship work that needs to happen there as well. Because not everyone's going to be unable to act out their own fears or the fact that they didn't have breakfast and are super hungry or their brother beat them up last night. All that stuff's going to be coming into the school, and figuring out how to manage that stuff too, and how to deal with reality. I think that's a really crucial skill. I wish that were a competency at some state, being good at dealing with reality and just like leaving it at that. I feel like that's what you're pointing at, May, that we have to be good at dealing with reality because reality sucks. I mean, it can really suck and it can be really wonderful, but co-creating wonderful out of suckiness is a skill that why wouldn't we be thinking about how to help our teachers do it and how to help our teachers help our students do it? Because our students eventually will become parents and then they can help, like it would be really great if everybody could be kind of good at this eventually someday.
Yeah. And I think to like think about reality as, again, like a beautiful thing that we get to work with.
Yes, exactly.
Even the hard stuff about reality is beautiful. And yeah, you're making me think like, how to resist? So my dear friend is a really intense student. She's in grad school, PhD program for art history, like really hardcore. So she recently did something where she like gave me kind of a mock lecture, which was great. So I kind of pretended to be her student. And at one point in the course of her talking, she said, few people in the history of humanity have been given full humanhood. We just kind of sat with that and how true that is up to this day. I also want to say, like, if you decide to honor your true humanhood and kind of, I at least see the world as beauty. Like, I just see it as so beautiful and infinitely readable. And again, to me, it's this great work of art that we get to participate in, like in this crazy way. It's like unbelievable. And to me, that's the real world, is just kind of endless wonder in a real way that I experience every day. And then there's the fake world that we all also have to deal with, which is like the world of money and forms and bureaucracy and the fact that like someone is getting in the way of our needs fully being met, like whatever that looks like, and being kind of given these kind of fake ontology. It's actually like a pretty fully realized system of meaning in terms of like, what does it mean to be a person? And it is all fake. It paints me as a student. I'm a human being. I'm just a fucking form in the world. But in this ontology, again, like it shapes everything according to its particular flavor of power and domination or something, and closed-mindedness and fear. Again, I don't see things that way necessarily. To me, it's all about fear. Fear then creates these kinds of differentials where these voids where power comes in and whatever. But I don't think those things are actually...
They're more secondary. They're not as primal.
They're secondary. Exactly. So all to say, in the real world, everyone is managing the simultaneous heaven and hell of life. That is like, to me, the fact that love is everything. We're contending with the fact that love is everything. And yet we've been detached from each other. Like we've been kind of violently separated from that which we love, which is everything else. Like I am discrete for some violent reason. It feels like we are all echoes of the Big Bang. Like there was kind of an original violence that happened to separate love from itself. And now we're like in this kind of crazy, almost paradox.
Wow.
But that to me, again, that is the substance of the divine is that paradox, is that fact. And that's what creates time and space, like that separation of love from itself that we get to navigate every moment in all of its an infinite complexity that causes hate to happen one moment and then overwhelming love to happen another moment and absolute confusion and clarity and just, whatever. And then sleep, like fucking sleep for 8 hours.
Thank God.
You just can't deal with it.
If you can manage that.
Exactly. If you're aware of the world as being that, I think there's a certain amount of courage, maybe, to seeing the world that way.
I think so too.
And so then you can get into this fake world, but there's fear too. Fear is a very easy thing to believe in. And I suspect that as soon as you start to be like, wait, maybe I should be scared of all this stuff, or like maybe I should start to not accept, like maybe there's something fucked about this situation, which is so easy. Like it's crazy to be like, you are love embodied, but you are separated. Like who did, like God must hate us, for structuring the world that way. I am actually pissed. I want love all the time. And I don't know why I'm separated from it. Then these systems can start that create these fake worlds that like are just, I would say that are fear embodied. They're just fumes kind of swirling over the real world, over the kind of beauty. They're just kind of, and they're trying to convince us that they can protect us or something.
Yeah,
they have this, again, this like totalizing ontology, whatever. Understanding of ways of being that are just operating on an incorrect assumption about like what the world actually is, what the real world actually is. Yeah. But again, kids coming in with just like dealing with bullshit in their lives, that's just the real world. It's as beautiful and horrible as everything else and like deserves to be honored. And again, like deserves the world itself to like bring its consciousness to it in a way that like moves it and metabolizes it and heals. Seeks healing. But these fake ways of seeing it that are like, you do this and you do that. And I don't know, I just get so tired of just the conventional world, I guess.
Yeah.
But I think the more that people can kind of be encouraged to like understand what actually this is, which is this like inconceivable miracle that we all exist, straight up, why ever take that for granted?
Yeah.
Maybe that's partly it. I'm like interested in teaching for people who don't really take their lives for granted.
Yeah. Or helping students when they're with you to, for those moments, not take their lives for granted. What a lovely gift. What a lovely experience for them. And then, of course, for you.
Yeah, exactly. Totally for me.
Another great definition of teaching, supporting students in not taking their lives for granted. And themselves.
And themselves. Exactly.
And each other. Because it's about the connection between them too.
Yeah.
Because love, this divine, what we're talking about is not individualistic.
Oh, it's relational. That's the reason it was separated from itself. Because of relationship. Because of the potential of relationship.
The way back is through relationship. Yep. I think I'm going to ask one more question for you, but I just want to say at this moment to our dear listeners, you can imagine what kind of Thanksgiving conversation we're going to be having this year. Of course, we have these conversations every year. Okay, so Nene, here's a challenge for you and for our listeners. If you could give our listeners, whether they're teachers, students, student teachers, or parents, one single piece of homework for this week, to help them get where you're talking about or be the way you're talking about, what would that be? And it could be an assignment for yourself too, because it's a constant practice, right? It's a discipline.
Right. Revisit a book, something that you read sometime in the past, maybe when you were a kid or whatever, that really like touched you for some reason. And just like read it again. Just experience it again, maybe.
Nice.
Yeah.
I just have to say that I recently found a book that was given to me by my very, very first friend, the first friend I ever remembered. I must have been 3 and 4. Her name is Debbie London. She lived across the street from me in Norwood, New Jersey. And she gave me the book, The Wind and the Willows. It's a big, large-sized book, and it's got these lovely line drawings and some paintings. And I read it for the first time that I remember. I think I tried reading it when I was little, but I found it kind of scary. But I read it through and it gave me that feeling. There was some weird darkness in it, but there's so much kindness and love and goodness in it. I just was blown away. So that would be one that I just read it, so I'm not sure I'd read it again, but that's what I could conceivably go back to.
Oh, love
It's so nice to have those. And I think even just thinking about what those books are, just thinking about what those books would be and just even grabbing them and just throwing them open, just riffling through them and seeing what page you land on and just reading that and seeing what that brings up for you could be interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. It's so affective, but you don't even really need to like necessarily get too deep in it if it's something that struck you. I was just thinking about the Salt in His Shoes book about Michael Jordan. Remember
Oh
that?
my God, really?
Well, because in this teaching of reading class several weeks ago, we did a kind of exercise with children's books, and she brought a bunch of kids' books, and that was in the collection, and I was immediately drawn to
wow.
it, and kind of I feel like the way that you described, like, and mostly the memory of the pictures, like the
Yes.
images, which is this like full body feeling.
Yes. Like you're as a friend, here's my
Yes.
friend. And I'd
Yes.
forgotten. Yes. Oh, I love it. I hadn't thought about that book. Yes, and I can picture it. I can totally picture it.
Right? I'm curious how many adults engage in a regular way with stuff that makes a world like that appear for them, that they can then like step inside and be like,
Makes them
goodness
happy.
and rightness exists.
Yes.
That makes them happy like that. Exactly.
So let me just say, I'd like to say to you, dear listeners, if you do this homework assignment, and if you want to get an A+, and if you're like me in May, you want to get an A+, drop the book that is meaningful to you. Drop the book into the comments, like leave a comment on my Substack for this episode, and just let us know. Let us know what that book or those books are. It would be so lovely to compile a list or just have it published out there so people can see. I love that. Oh, May, thank you. I love you. You're so freaking awesome. And I hope like we didn't completely turn everybody off. I'm not sure this is the kind of thing that most people listen or talk about, but I do want to say to our dear listeners, if you enjoyed this holiday family episode, share it with your friends. Share it and your family, of course. And, take some prompts from me and May. Use something like, so let's talk ontology, or what is the divine like for you? Or let's talk about sin in our lives. I don't know. What would the prompt be? Drop that into the comments too, because I'd love to hear what you pull from this conversation. And leave a review wherever you get your podcasts. Just a rating really helps. Just give us 5 stars. That would be fantastic. But actual words in a little review box is even more helpful. I mean, you can channel May and just do some writing. Channel the divine for us. We love you. And we wish you happiness and hope in this holiday season. And May, as I said, I love you and I thank you for the time that you've spent and the energy that you bring every time we're together. You bring it everywhere you go.
Oh, of course. I always love talking to you so much. And I'm so grateful you're my mom. And I'm really grateful that you listen to me when I say this stuff and take me seriously.
Oh, totally, totally. Not hard. TTE is a Podvision production, created and hosted by me, Betsy Burris, and co-hosted by Joe Johnson. Production and audience development support from Julian Androkaya and Andrea Koskay. Crucial editing by Brad Wells. And the music, which makes me smile and dance every time I hear it, by Tom Burris of Jabbering Trout. Thanks one and all. If you like this episode, text it to a friend. And if you haven't already, sign up for my Substack, where you can become a paid subscriber and get all kinds of goodies, including exclusive podcast episodes that will change your life. That's teachingthroughemotions.com. Thank you for listening.
It's all true.